I was imagining living in New York City, and I was imagining when I did live there. I lived on Myrtle and Nostrand in this apartment building in a small, like 700 square foot box with people to my top, left, right, and behind me and below me. And then I was just like, man, I can't play music here. You can't. You can get an acoustic guitar and you can play during certain hours. You can't play drums.
Right.
You can get practice pads or maybe an electric kit and then put, headphones on or something. But you can't be noisy. And what I started to think was, as people get pushed closer, you have this, as an individual, you have this bubble of freedoms around you. As you get further and further away from other people, that bubble grows and grows and grows, where you're not impeding on anybody else's life. As you move closer and closer to people, the bubble starts getting pressed upon by other people's bubbles. So Ian loved it because I said it was like rural people are basically like gaseous, bouncing around all crazy, having all this freedom, having a good time. And then as you move closer and closer to the city, it becomes more solid, where you literally can't do anything. You can't be noisy. You can't be up too late. You can't blast the stereo.
You can't have your guns.
Can't have your guns. Can't cook stinky foods because there's too many people around you. You are solidified in this block that's rigid and controlled. And I think the problem is there is no ideological or policy solution to population density. There's none. You recognize that if you live in a big city, there's going to be too much crime because there's too many people, and the police and the courts won't be able to handle it properly. So I think it's fair to say there's no simple solution.
Well,
either you increase security or you let crime run rampant.
You do give up a lot of.
Well, there's been an incentivized program within the last few decades pushing people to live in cities, wanting people to live on top of each other.
Yes.
I think that kind of lifestyle has been glorified. I think there's been a lot of manipulation to make it seem like it's trendy, like it's cool, like it's hip, when in reality, it's an absolute hellscape where police officers try to steal your money to generate revenue for the state, while, of course, making sure you're defenseless as the crackhead who stabs you, as they're literally sitting there watching you bleed out.
It doesn't have to be like that.
That's life in New York City. But that's life in New York City.
It wasn't like that before. It wasn't like that.
It wasn't like that in the 90s? Because I grew up in New York City in the 90s.
It was like that in the 90s.
Thank you, Libby. It was.
And then it changed and got better.
It got
and
more
now
authoritarian.
It's back to like that
Broken
again.
windows policing.
Yes, that's
and
right.
And crime dropped dramatically.
Stop and frisk.
Did it, or was it just the reporting? Because we also have to understand here, the New York City Police
People
Department
were not
manipulates
being pushed into the subway tracks
reporting.
like that.
Yes, of course. But I'm saying crime goes in waves. But
Yeah,
when there's a
that's
program, and there's been an epidemic of New York City police officers that have been downgrading particular crimes to make it seem like it's not a big issue. Yeah. Whether it's assaults, it was simple batteries. Whether it's robberies, it was just a small petty theft. And a lot of the times, police officers got caught lessening the crimes in order to make their precinct look like it was good and tough on crime, when in reality there was a lot of crime. And what essentially Giuliani did, he violated a lot of people's civil rights, but he also contained the crime in particular areas and essentially pushed it away. And it still continued, but it only continued in certain neighborhoods.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
They turned Manhattan into a glorious playground.
For the super rich.
Yes.
Yes.
And for those of us who wandered about in it.
Yes. Becoming more and more successful. People around you become evil as evil can possibly be, and you learn who your true friends really are. And then you also learn, who was like never really a friend, but they really want free stuff. But it is unsurprising. I mean, I should say it was surprising to me to discover how many people that you think are your friends turn out to be just extremely evil.
Yeah, being at the effect, right? It's like these shows these shows that pluck up the average person and make them famous, or things like that, or reality TV, or taking people that aren't that talented and making them famous. It's more of this idea that the establishment, like you're at the effect of life, then the big establishment, which is kind of like this sort of like pimp-ho relationship, they come up, they pluck you up, and then they make you famous. The way to get success is not by grinding it out. It's by just being this like perfectly compliant person, then they'll just pluck you up and make you famous.
Yeah, if Harvey wants...
Governments get elected because people are in that kind of psychology. So one of the biggest things to actually changing what kind of governments get elected is teaching people to think for themselves. And I think that's actually the battle of the coming century, is teaching people to think for themselves, teaching them not to use groupthink as a easy out to thinking.
There are a lot of parents, though, who intentionally exploit their children for, various financial gain. And that's
crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. But they do it not just in Hollywood. They do it all over the place.
That it's not even about, you can't, I'll tell you, man, if you won $929 million, that actually sounds nightmarish. You're going to have people trying to kill you. You're not going to... So, we get this all the time with death threats, swattings, bomb threats. It's nuts. Yeah. Imagine not having any experience with it, not having dealt with this level of insanity, and all of a sudden one day overnight, it's like, oh, someone's going to try and kill you. Actually, tons of people are going to try and kill you. They know where you live. They announced you won. Good luck.
Or they just become infatuated by you and then want to love you and become so centered on you that they make you the focus of their life, and then they become destructive in that way. But one of the smartest things that I saw was an announcement for someone who won the lottery, and he decided to wear the Scream mask. And he's literally getting the check, because some lotteries make you have the photo, make you, of course, sign a lot of documents, do a lot of PR, do a lot of news interviews. He says, I'm not doing any of that. I'm putting on a mask. He was photographed with the mask, and it's one of the smartest things that I've ever seen.
Anonymous
He's like, I don't want family members bothering me.
Yeah.
It's
I'll
also,
help my family.
People
but
think happiness is about a certain amount of money. It's really about having a beautiful ecosystem, purpose in life, and great friends and stuff. And so if you're in an ecosystem of people that aren't used to that kind of wealth, and that's who you're surrounded by, there's this thing we call it an RAS flip. So it's reticular activation system. It actually explains why people on the left or the right see the world differently. It's called RAS. Reticular activation system. It's selective focus. We see the world very, very differently. Right. We don't believe what we see what we believe. And so we have very, very selective focus. So if, Tim, you mentioned that you had a lot of people turn evil on you as you got success. I had a similar experience. It's actually heartbreaking, and it's confusing as hell if you've never experienced it. And so what happens is that...
And like, they don't ask for anything. They just instantly become evil. It's crazy.
It's terrifying. And it's some of your best friends. And it's not even that they've hurt you. It's that real friends stab you in the back. And it's dehumanizing.
And it's not about politics. Like, obviously, for political reasons, people are at odds today. But in my experience, it's like for literally no reason. Maybe it's jealousy.
Yeah. So what it is called an RAS flip. So basically, as your value changes, what they see in you changes. So reticular activation system, just look this up. I would advise anybody to look this up. It's selective focus. Once you get this, you see why people see the world differently. We have very, very selective focus. We don't believe what we see what we believe. And it's like if you have a breakup with a significant other, and at first they idealize you because they're getting something from you. Later in a breakup, they, like, say that there was 100 experiences. Let's just to be a round number, right? 98 of them are positive, 2 are negative. Well, then when they like you, they focus on the 98 positive. Then if you break up and it hurts, then they focus more on the 2 negative ones.
And
RAS flip.
A year later, you forget the bad things, start to remember all the good things, and then wonder why you broke up.
100%. And so, and that's why it's human to do that. But you're getting that same effect as you've gained success. That's why you've seen that. People are having RAS flips. They're seeing things differently. Once you study this and you basically just understand RAS, it clarifies a ton. It's selective focus.